Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Well, thank you very much for staying a little bit late and tuning in this morning with me. I'm looking forward to catching up with you guys since I haven't seen you for a year. So,
thank you to you for making the time. Indeed, we have a lot of wines to present, so we're very excited to have this moment with you, James.
Well, tell me. Obvious, as you know, we're neighbors. I have a house on Carneros. And so when I heard the news that the winery burnt down, it was shocking. Tell me what's going on, and what are your plans?
So essentially, on Spring Mountain, we've basically lost everything. We've lost the winery. We have 80 acres of plantable lands. And out of that, almost everything has been destroyed by the fire. So we're basically resuming from scratch over there. We've also lost some of the previous vintages that were stored at the winery. So on Spring Mountain, we're resuming from scratch. And we have the ambition and the backing of LVMH to rebuild. So we will rebuild as soon as we can.
But obviously your vineyards weren't burnt, right?
Vineyards got burnt as well. The vineyards got torched. It's very impressive.
Oh.
It's very impressive. It was a shock. Everyone said it was like a bomb exploded over Spring Mountain. It really went through the rows. We're farming organically, so we have a pretty dense cover crop across the rows, and that basically helped the fire to move and burn everything. So yeah, Spring Mountain, our property in Spring Mountain is basically we're resuming from scratch, really. Vineyard.
Sorry.
It's frustrating because we just had finished, pretty ambitious renovation phase. We had rebuilt some of the premises, a new lab for Alberto and his team, etc. We finished to redo the gardens. We had redeveloped some of the vineyard. Well, listen, I think it is what it is. We think we have the most important is nobody got hurt. We've got a great team. We've got a great land. And so basically what disappeared is just, material stuff, but it's not the soul of Newton. So we will redo better with the same team as soon as we can. And on the other hand, we also have a great vineyard in Montvitre and a great vineyard in Carneros. And these are untouched by what happened. So we will still make wine. And as we redevelop, use primarily Montvitre for the cab.
Okay.
As well as Chard. We'll discuss about that, but we're going to replant more Chardonnay on Montvitre, and obviously the Chardonnay in Carneros. So.
And where will you make the wines then?
We're looking into that. We've got some options. Some vintners offered to host us, there are several options. We've not made our decision yet. Okay. But there are some good options.
Again, I'm really sorry about that, but in any case, I'm sure you'll be making some great wines in the future, like you're making now. Do you want to start with the Chardonnays then?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So what do you want to try first? We have all of them, the three of them here. So.
I think a good way to go would be the Unfiltered 18 first, and then we can follow with the Bay Vineyard and finishing with the Beckstoffer.
Okay. So tell me your thoughts on the 2018 vintage for Chardonnay.
In a very simple word, I think I would hope one day to go through another vintage like 2018, because for us, for Chardonnay, but also for reds, it has been a very enjoyable vintage. We had temperatures that have been decently warm, but never a heat spike. We could actually have the development of the fruit happening slower for what's concerned sugar. And so we got much more ripeness in terms of aromatics. And we didn't have to rush to pick Chardonnay because sugar is too high. So we are very happy with the vintage 18. And I think it's going to show very well with the time in the next 1, 2, 3 years.
It has nice density and phenolic tension.
Yeah, so in fact, with the unfiltered Chardonnay, what we're trying to look for is really the harmony. We use different vineyards for this wine. This wine bought in the 90s, and it takes place in Carneros with the first vineyard of the Newton family. But then we've been utilizing the Carneros area mainly, and that's where we get the backbone of freshness, the tightness of it. And other vineyards through Napa, particularly Rutherford, until 2018. Okay. And that's where we get the roundness that define this wine. So we try to find a balance within these vineyards to get to an harmony, which we think is to produce a wine with weight, for sure, we are in Napa, with density, but still fresh, enjoyable, with a drinkability that calls you to drink it over and over and doesn't really tire you.
Yes, I get that. That's what I really like. It seems this vintage has a little bit more density, but still doesn't lose the drinkability you always had. But I like that a little bit more in the palate, a little bit more of the tannic or the phenolic or tannin tension, the texture, rather than just the beautiful transparent fruit and acidity that you always have.
Well, definitely, and that's why I'm pushing more and more to try to keep doing. We don't necessarily do 100% malolactic on everything, but a big portion, at least 85 plus, is also because we don't filter the wine, so we can't really go in bottle with that much malic. And really, that's where we build the mouthfeel. It's that and using oak that apport that in the mouthfeel and doesn't necessarily overcome aromatically the wine.
And so what would you like to try next then?
We can go on the Bay Vineyard, 2018. So this wines is a small sub-parcel of our vineyard in Carneros. Our vineyard in Carneros is probably the coolest vineyard we utilize to make Chardonnay within all the vineyards we use. And we found this sub-parcel, which is a particular clone that really started to excite us. And here what we find is the freshness of the wine, the zesty character of it. Now, the place where the vineyard is located is very heavy, dark clay, which if I was elsewhere in the world, maybe I would imagine being a too wet soil to produce Chardonnay. But in Napa works very well for Chardonnay. We see this constantly every year. And we can get these wines that are very pretty, very floral, and with this freshness on the back of them that makes them actually complex.
Tell me, Claire, my assistant editor, is here.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And she's working on a small story on Carneros. And so for you, what's the magic of Carneros? What makes it so special for Chardonnay?
Well, obviously the proximity to the bay and all what happens in the morning with the fog coming in. And really it is cooler. It's much cooler. And then as soon as you leave from there and you get into Napa Valley, northern you go and warmer it gets. So that is one. But then also, I think the soil types, I feel there are diversity through the Carneros area. And I'm talking about the Napa side. But you still find deep soil, in many places clay. So you find an environment where the plants don't necessarily go in that hydric stress that is more common through the Napa Valley than when you get into the valley. So that adds very much. I wouldn't honestly exclude the Merlot in that area. And it's something that we were looking into, and probably in the future we will too, because I think it could be very suitable nowadays for Merlot.
That's a really useful. And do you find that there's a lot of differences in subzones in Carneros? Do you see big differences or not?
Well, definitely. I mean, if we are gonna taste the following wine, we're talking about maybe a mile away, and it's completely different. I know those two areas quite well, and we start with a different soil. We don't have on the Beckstoffer Carneros, we don't have that black clay whatsoever in our blocks. But the wines are completely different, and you would imagine that being closer to the water, the Beckstoffer Carneros Lake is really, you can see the water right there, would be a cooler environment, a place where you would get a more restrained wine. In fact, we see the opposite, and we also see that it's basically the first vineyard that we pick every single year.
It's definitely riper. And also, you get this you get more phenolics, like maybe the skin is getting more sunshine or something. But it's definitely different than the Bay Vineyard. The texture is different. There's more texture to it. More.
It's very exactly. I agree. It's very textural. Maybe there's also more depth than what we find on the Bay Vineyard. But you see, this wine for me really represents well what Napa Valley Chardonnay can be. You have depth, you have structure, but still we retain brightness. And this wine started in 2017. We've been working with this vineyard for many years. I joined in 2014, but Newton was working with this particular vineyard for decades before. We decided to bottle it by itself just in 2017. And this is a small subblock that we identify within the entire vineyard down there.
No, well done. I like that. Great. Let's go to the cabs now then. So we go to Unfiltered, I guess, 18.
Yeah, we can start with Unfiltered.
With Unfiltered. Just a couple of words here to tell you a little bit where we're heading to. So with what happened to us, basically, that also helped us to streamline really what Newton stands for. And what Alberto and I have been doing essentially for the past 3 years was to understand and recapture Peter Newton's original vision, which is really mountain. So we want to be a meaningful expression of Napa mountains, and all the wines except the single vineyard Yonville are mostly mountain vineyards. They all are coming from our own properties, right? From all the fruits from Unfiltered, Puzzle, and single vineyards, our own properties. There's not one fruit that is not farmed by us in there. But all of them are mountain except Yonville. So what I can tell you today, James, it's a bit of an exclusive, is we will we will no longer make single vineyard Yonville because we believe it's not part of our DNA, if you will. And we will gradually use less and less fruits of Yonville as we're redeveloping Spring Mountain. So you're having the last expression, the last single vineyard expression of Yonville tonight.
Wow, how interesting. But that does make sense.
Yeah. And maybe the other piece of information we'll get there more in detail is about the puzzle. So the puzzle is really
ask you what happens to puzzle.
Yeah. So you see the puzzle move from puzzle to le puzzle to the puzzle. So it's been in the portfolio for a long time. It's something it's a wine that's been engineered, created by Peter Newton, who wanted really to showcase the beauty of blends. And we've been working hard on this puzzle blend. We realized that if Peter Newton had access to Mount Veeder when he was running the property, he would probably had wanted to add other mountain fruits, so blend not only varietals, but also lands. And so the puzzle is evolving from a single vineyard, so Spring Mountain blend, into a Montvitter and Spring Mountain predominantly blend. So really showcases the beauty of two extremely different mountain terroirs from Napa. Spring being more savory and floral, to Montvitter being definitely much more powerful, dense, dark mineral. And we think that it's really something that we owe to the valley, because not a lot of people, if anyone, owns two terroirs, one in spring, one in Vitter, to have them blended and show how beautiful the mountain fruits can be, also harmoniously blended together. So Puzzle is really it's a big bet for us. We really spend a lot of energy on this because we want this to be the cornerstone, basically, of Newton, and really reshift it also to be more Cabernet focused from these two Montvitter and Spring terroirs.
You want to taste the 18 Unfiltered then?
Yes, we definitely should jump in. Now, with the Unfiltered, we try to balance three different characters. These are three vineyards that go in this wine. In a normal vintage, such as 18, they tend to be equivalent. So we use a third from each of the three vineyards, Spring Mountain, Yountville, and Montvitter. And what we try to achieve is to have a joyful wine, a wine that you really want to drink, and actually as a generosity with freshness.
Yes, it has that.
I think 2018 vintage will age extremely well in the future. Regardless, now we're talking on Chardonnay, but also for reds, definitely.
But it has nice drinkability already. And I agree, the balance, freshness, fine tannins, it'll be a wine that you can enjoy now, but will certainly age very well. Let's go to Puzzle then.
Let's go to Puzzle.
For me, that Puzzle 18 is where we want to bring Puzzle in terms of philosophy and style.
And isn't it interesting that it really has mountain fruit character with the pine needles, and really you can taste that it's from where you said. It's fantastic.
And I would add, it has that, and at the same time, it has this kind of opulence, this approachability that's not always easy to get with mountain style. So that's why we really are proud of this Puzzle concept in general and where we're bringing it.
So Puzzle will really, you said you won't be using valley fruit then? Yeah,
as little as possible. So as we will develop spring, we will still use some Yountville, but really in a very small base. And as soon as we can basically completely skip Yountville, we will completely skip Yountville. Not because we don't like Yountville at all. We love Yountville, but it's just not our DNA,
Yeah.
And if we're on the mountain, hopefully it's for a reason. Everything being so more complex, we hope that we bring something different than the valley floor. So let's embrace that style.
Fantastic.
And something that I don't know, we told you also, but across all our vineyards, so Carneros, but the three, Yountville, Montvitter, and Spring, were organic. So that's another element of complexity, but of style as well. We're totally respecting our vines. And so that Newton Puzzle, to finish with that, the 18, where I say it really is where we want it to be, is also because it's it's above 75% Cabernet Sauvignon, so it could be appellated Cap Sauvignon. Say to keep it as a blend concept, but we want the Cabernet Sauvignon to really shine in this blend.
Okay, should we move to Yountville or stay with mountain fruit?
We could stay with Spring Mountain and then
good idea.
It's beautiful. So concerning the single vineyards, I'm gonna just mention what is the idea behind these wines, these three wines today, plus the Chardonnay. You see, for the Chardonnay, for the single vineyard Chardonnay, we don't put them on the market. They are a DTC tasting room. It's an idea that comes from really showcasing our terroir in the Carneros area to from the tasting room. While for the Cabernets, this started in 2014. Now, when we joined the winery, we knew more or less what vineyards we were going to work with, and we had an idea of what style we could get from each of these three appellations. But we really wanted to learn more, so we vinified everything separate, not just appellation, but also single block. And then we kept doing it from then on to really try to learn as much as possible. Okay, what is this vineyard about? What is this block within this vineyard about? And we realized that in average small size area, we had three very distinctive expression of Cabernet. Mm-hmm. And we decided then to do small bottlings of the three appellations. And then we kept doing it through the years. Now, Spring Mountain, well, I really think it's, as I said before, it's a stunning place. It's a complex place at the same time because we don't have many acres. We have 74 acres on a property that is about 500 acres. So we can really conserve the natural aspect of the property. And within that, we have altitude, which is going from 600 till 1,600 feet. Exposition, just within the property, we found at least 5 different soil types, which is outstanding. So it's basically working with the properties, basically really working with many different terroirs all together.
And you have also your expositions are different too, no?
Definitely, yeah. We have every single exposition you can imagine.
Now, very sort of extreme, is just driving around. It's pretty extreme, and it has a incline that goes up very quickly.
Most of the blocks are terraced because otherwise you couldn't really plant them. And now with what happened at the end of 2020, I think this will give us also the possibility to select what varieties to plant where and how. So we have a huge opportunity there. We know where Merlot works and where it doesn't. We know where Cabernet works and where it doesn't. Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc, also Malbec. So that's how we are going to reapproach the replanting, not just replanting Cabernet. We're going to keep the varieties there because we want to keep this diversity. But maybe we're not going to plant Cabernet in some blocks where we had Cabernet and vice versa, put Merlot. We go from decomposed ash to rich iron soil, which is bright red, to actually clay. It's a very complex variety location, but I think all the Newton team agrees, it's very, very rewarding.
I like the Mount Veeder a little bit more than the Spring Mountain in the palates. It seems even more. It seems longer and a little bit like the tannins are a little bit more seamless. Really nice texture. Well done. Let's try Unfiltered just for comparison's sake.
Definitely.
And I'm sure it's going to be, particularly in this vintage, there's a big difference.
2017, with a heat wave, which happened in September, what I think happened is that we almost lost 5 days to a week of sugar accumulation, even though the numbers would tell you the opposite because you lose water in the berries, but there was no photosynthesis. And so we catched up the phenolic and aromatic development later in the season. We didn't peak late in 2017, but we didn't peak early either. So I think we were able to retain the natural acidity of the wine without going into the jammy character.
Yes, no, there's none of that. That's what, in fact, a lot of 17s have that. And if you looked at it on paper, I remember I was always concerned before I did a big 17 tasting that the wines would show jamminess, because you saw a hot year, lower production. It was a recipe for some major jam production. And in fact, it didn't happen because of exactly what you said for so many people, as long as they didn't wait. And if they waited, then they were messed up by the fire. So your wines have nice freshness, blue fruits, no overripe character in any way, really nicely crafted and characterful wines.
Thank you.
So, well, listen, it was very interesting, the conversation, and also, well, first about Carneros, but also about the big idea of, it's horrible about what happened with the 2020 fire and your terrible loss, but also that you're positive and that this is an opportunity to really focus your energy on the history and DNA of Newton making fantastic mountain wines.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's really the spirit. So we'll continue Montvitter, spring, more Chardonnay out of Montvitter. We're really excited. So,
okay, well, listen, thanks so much for the conversation, and I look forward to seeing you guys this year in St. Helena. I miss you.
Anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.